ideas, content creators, we're looking for that. Videographers, we're looking for that. You can be a part of the next great big thing that takes place right here in Chester, Pennsylvania. Let's cultivate together, man.
Hello everyone, my name is Tanu Moss and I'm running for judge out in media for the Court of Common Pleas. So please come vote November 2nd.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Uncle P, man, and I have the pleasure of sitting here and talking with Ms. Tanu Moss, and she's running for the Court of Common Pleas out in media, right? November 2nd is the election. It's important that we come out and we vote. How you doing, Ms. Tanu Moss?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for inviting us into your office, man. It's been a pleasure sitting here talking to you about the election process and the ups and the downs and that. What got you interested in running to be a judge?
To be honest with you, the political process has always been a little bit daunting, a little bit scary, and I never thought in a million years that this is something that I would do. But just like anyone, sometimes you need that encouragement from your family. And I'm very fortunate enough to have an amazing husband who has been involved in politics for quite some time, who knew that being a judge was a dream of mine. My grandfather was a judge in Nigeria. And so he was like, if this is something you want to do, I can help you do that. And I was like, I know if I have him in my corner, I can do just about anything. So I said, let's do this. I've been practicing for law for quite some time now. I've had finance backgrounds. I actually majored in environmental science and policy in undergrad, so not too far from the spectrum of things that I've practiced or at least been educated on. But being a judge would just be a dream of mine, but it also gives me ability to not just talk about it, but do something about it as well. So now if I become a judge out in media, I'll be on the other side of that bench. I would be that person responsible for making sure that a lot of the things that I may have disagreed with as it pertains to the law, I get to add my perspective and a different perspective that I represent a different community. And I'd be bringing all of that perspective, all of my education, all of my experiences, the conversations that I've had with people such as the members of Labor's Local 413 in Chester. I get to bring that wealth of information, knowledge, and experience with me to the bench. So when their issues are presented to me, I have a different perspective on how the law should apply to those set of circumstances. And that's a different perspective, perhaps, than some people currently have on the bench. It's not a bad thing. It's just a different perspective.
Right. So when you mentioned a different perspective, right? Because we already have a female judge, African-American female judge. She was the first ever, right, elected, Ms. Nasra Rashid. You're going to be, if you win, right, the second, right? So how does that feel to you to know that you hold a lot of weight on your shoulders?
It doesn't feel like a lot of weight.
Okay.
You know what feels like more weight to me? Representing my clients who are coming before people who might not share the same values and perspectives, and overcoming that person's lack of information and knowledge and experience, and trying to get them to come down and meet us where we're at. That's harder than me being on the bench and already having some idea of what the person before me is currently experiencing and going through.
How were you introduced to the field of law, and what drove you to pursue it?
I would like to say, as a child, I always wanted to do that, but that's not true. I think life drove me to wanting to do that. Watching the news, seeing what's going on in our community, seeing what's going on in the world, and wishing I could do more about it. And going into law was the way I felt was best. I was best able to address some of those issues. Graduating, starting to practice in a community and serve certain segments of the community was my best way to start seeing some of that change that I wanted to see when I was watching the news. And as we were discussing prior, let's not complain about it. Let's do something about it. And this is my effort at doing something about it.
What are your plans to bring impartiality to the bench?
I don't have any real plans to bring. We can't come in with a preset plan. What I know I can do is bring in, again, my values, my experiences, my perspective. I can bring all those clients that I've represented with me when I come to the bench. And when you're fortunate enough to have clients that have run the spectrum from senior citizens to juveniles to our middle-aged clients, some who are going through divorces, some who are going through custody, some who are suffering from child support. And I can't even mention the number of cases or individuals who've called my office who couldn't afford an attorney. And they've reached out to me and said, thank you so much for taking me hours to walk me through this process, to allow me to handle these matters on my own. A lot of attorneys aren't going to do that. But again, I'm very blessed to say, you know what? I'm not trying to be wealthy here. I'm just trying to make sure that when I go to sleep at night, I can rest well. I'm very comfortable. And for the most part, everything I do, because I always know that I was as fair as I could be, as honest as I could be, and I've always given my best. So as far as being impartial on the bench, I don't have any goals or achievements or anything I'm looking to do after getting on the bench. I'm not trying to set up any group of people, and I'm not trying to say anyone else who's going on the bench has had that goal in mind. What I'm saying is that I know what it feels like sometimes to feel disadvantaged, to feel judged, to feel ignored. And I know if I'm fortunate enough to get on that bench, that there's no one who's going to come before me who's going to feel like they were not heard or not understood.
What are your ideas of how the court system can make strides towards being more accessible and fair for everyone, particularly marginalized residents?
That is a sort of double-edged sword. I will try to get as close to answering that question as possible without entering into politics. I do believe that the judicial system should be balanced. And what I mean is we should make sure that people who cannot afford private attorneys feel that when they're using our public defender's office, that they're getting the same quality services as they are if they were a victim and being represented by the DA's office. So making sure that we have equal resources between all attorneys representing the common law, I think is one way to make sure that people who are marginalized are getting services that they're comfortable in. But then in addition to that, going back to some of the earlier statements about having clients or even individuals who I know can't afford me, working with them. Just yesterday I was instructing a young lady who was interested in doing divorce how to go online. Delaware County has quite a bit of forms that allow people to start handling a lot of these things on their own, from custody, support, and divorce. I wish that website was just a little bit user-friendly, to be honest with you. So it will take some time for someone to navigate it, and that would be one of the things that I would ask, is that maybe we have a revamping of our public access system so people know that this information is readily available to them, or at least these resources are available to them. And then maybe, and they do a great job of making these forms somewhat easy to complete. But that will be one of the things, making the courts more accessible to the public, and the best way to do that is start making a lot of the forms, self-represented forms, a little bit easier to find. I know at one point, probably from a cost perspective, those forms were available in the courthouse. And maybe because of the cost of paper, they've since then been removed, and they were probably holding up the lines, and so they've made a lot of people go online to do them. But unfortunately, there's members of my community who don't have access to the internet, who don't have access to computers, so that in effect disenfranchised them. So I've been able to, there's no way I'll know who this has impacted across the board, but I do know I've personally printed out forms or charged someone something extremely minimal And all I did was plug in the information and use the basic form and handed it to them. So I may have charged some people about $50. And that was just the time to plug in the information. I didn't use my fancy form, but I used a form that still allowed them to proceed. And that way it was something that was cost effective for them. And then they were able to proceed on with their own. But at least they didn't have to worry about getting over that hump of that technology hump.
What are some of your core reasons why you're running for the Court of Common Pleas?
I think we addressed quite a bit of them at this point. It is to make the bench look like Delaware County. And politics aside, when you have a bench of 21 judges and they all happen to have maybe similar backgrounds, that's not representative of Delaware County. And then when you have a bench of primarily men, not representative of Delaware County, primarily non-minority, not representative of Delaware County, primarily Republican, not representative. And so with that, adding of diversity, which I would bring to the bench, again, comes different values. I'm Nigerian. I would love for the immigrant population, Chinese, Asian, African, Latino, Latina, to feel comfortable knowing that Delaware County is moving in the right direction, that Delaware County finds diversity an issue and wants to address it, that Delaware County is excited about having the bench look like the melting pot that Delaware County is. And so I'm hoping, again, should I be fortunate enough to come November 2nd to get on that bench, that I get to bring all of that wealth of information and my community with me, and I also get to judge in a manner that's fair, impartial, and compassionate.
Absolutely. What would it mean for you to win this election and become the only, not the only, but become the second Black woman ever to serve on a Delaware County's bench?
I'm not looking at it like that. To me, this is another job interview. Most people don't get interviewed by the public.
Right.
Most people don't get scrutinized on a public basis. I've never once considered, oh, I'm the second. I would be the second. That doesn't matter to me. I would look at it, yes, I get an opportunity to now address all of those little issues that I had a problem with for the last 10 plus years that I've been in Delaware County not practicing law. Just as a side note, one of the things that annoyed me the most, and I just got it the other day, is when I went into Delaware County, when I first started practicing, and I had a suit on, and my briefcase, and I'd introduced myself to the clerk, and they would still think that I was there as someone's parent, not an attorney. And someone just asked me the other day, I think I was in district court, I'm not gonna say where, and they assumed that I was the defendant and not the attorney. And I think it was not intentional, so to speak, because it wasn't that they thought I was an attorney because they were non-minority. In some occasions they were not minority, in some occasions they were minority. But they're not used to seeing many African American attorneys, I guess. And they most certainly aren't used to seeing many African American judges. And so that's what I would like to achieve, the visibility aspect. That there are people of diverse appearances, of diverse backgrounds, who are qualified and who want to be great public servants. And on November 2nd, hopefully you guys will elect another great public servant who happens to look like you and who happens to be also bringing that perspective. So the next time someone coming behind me comes before a judge or a clerk staff, you're not assuming she's the victim or she's the client instead of the judge or the attorney. That's what I want to achieve.
What advice do you have for any person, particularly young African Americans, who are planning or thinking about entering the field of law?
Network. And don't be scared to network. That was the hardest and is the hardest thing for me. I've been asked to attend certain functions, and I turned them down, even recently, because it's intimidating to go and mingle with maybe a crowd where you stand out. And if I'm fortunate enough to get on the bench, myself and Nusrat will still be in a crowd that doesn't look like us. But we've gotten to a certain point and a certain age, somewhat, where it's a little less intimidating. But in my youth, I wish I was a little bit more adventurous. And putting myself out there in those awkward situations. So even though we're talking about networking, it's very important in the legal community, because as minorities, there's still not many of us. I'm quite sure the community of Chester and whoever else is watching this, you can count on maybe one hand, maybe two, how many attorneys look like us. And then clearly the bench is indicative of how many attorneys who practice in Delaware County actually look like us. So my advice would be to network, reach out and find other minority attorneys, ask them for their advice. One of my things is when I was working in Center City, I did something called document review, and it wasn't that involved just from a legal perspective. It was tedious, it just wasn't that involved. And so I had the fortune of communicating with another African American attorney, and after our business was done, I was prepared to get off the phone, and he was like, "No, what are you doing?" And I explained to him what I was doing. But I always wanted to transition out of document review, but it's very hard to go into another field if you don't have someone to assist you with that. Because all of us aren't going to be able to work for those big law firms. So this attorney asked me, what was I doing? And I said, look, I would love to start learning different areas. You don't have to pay me. I was making more than enough at document review, and I had no kids. And that was our setup. He gave me the opportunity to learn different areas of law, and he didn't have to worry about paying me. I was very blessed with just supporting myself and having enough income that I did not need anymore. To me, I wasn't a millionaire, but I was okay. And so I now get to run for judge because I networked and because I believe I was creative. And that's what you're going to have to do as a minority until we start seeing a shift in the admissions into law school, until we start seeing a shift into how many of us pass the bar, and until we see a shift into how many of us start working in communities that may be marginalized or underserved, and then start running for office, such as myself.
Absolutely.
So there's a path. We're sort of blazing it or clearing it, but nowhere near the level of our colleagues right now. So again, they're going to have to network. They're going to have to buckle down, and they're going to have to get creative.
Yeah, absolutely. For the last, I think for the last 12 years, or maybe, 12 years, we've seen a jump in people wanting to run, people of color caring about where they come from and understanding. Where do you think that energy has been coming from?
We've had some things happen recently that have sparked an interest in people wanting to look outside of themselves, both black and white, Asian, Hispanic. That has made us recognize as a society that beating down on a group of people is not going to bring you up. And so I believe that we've seen this revitalization in our youth to start being more extrovert, that it's not all about you sometimes. And so maybe that's the reason why we're seeing an increase in individuals interested in running for office, because they actually do want to make a change. They actually want to see that change. They want to be a part of that change. And even if they're not the person running for office, maybe they can be the support system behind that through donations, through volunteering, through holding events, through holding rallies, marches, whatever the case may be. Letting people know, hey, I may not be the one running for Senate, but I just organized this march. And what I have is 1,000 foot soldiers behind me. So if you want to reach out to me, I can bring those foot soldiers for you and help you get out the vote. My foot soldiers is Local 413.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine a better set of foot soldiers. And they do it because they like me, some love me, some want to support me, some want to support the idea and the notion of seeing people from our community being propelled forward, and even if it's not them, they want to be a part of that force propelling that person forward. So I believe a part of that is seeing that it can actually happen if we support these individuals to do so. And so as people say, we're woke.
I want you to think about the people of this community, right? And the fact that we might only get 2,000 people out to vote. And I want you to talk to them, right? And tell them, number one, why they should vote for you, why they should come out and vote, and also how important it is for a community, right? A community so rich as Chester, Pennsylvania, 34,000 people, what that power can then translate to if we come out and vote. If we get 30,000 people to come out and vote in an election, what that power then does for the city of Chester. Can you do that?
I can try my best.
Okay.
I'm not going to focus on why they should vote for me.
Okay.
Let's just focus on voting.
Okay.
As I explained to you beforehand, I reached out to you because I don't know how to reach the people of this community. Other areas in Delaware County vote. They vote, they come out, and then their schools aren't suffering.
Right.
Then they have public youth leagues. They actually have pools that are funded. They actually have basketball courts with nets and blacktop. They actually have no potholes in their community. They actually have development. They have new schools with technology. That's what your vote does. Voting for me, I'm just a small part of that. Voting for people like your county council, important. You want to know where all that money from the federal government that makes its allotment and makes its way down to the states, and then the states are tasked with where to send that money to, and you wonder why it's being sent to this area and that area, because that area votes, and that area votes. And they don't care, perhaps, about this area down here, because though you may complain, you're not going to vote. So, all of the blight you may see, oh, that may be unattractive for this area here or that area there, but they don't come down here. So, if you don't care enough about how your community looks and how your community grows, then why should they? And the only way to make them concerned about how your community looks is to make them concerned about their jobs, make them concerned about their paychecks, make them concerned about not being able to send their kids to perhaps private school, or go to those perhaps golf clubs, or go to those private swim clubs. Make people concerned about
CMPRadio.net. It's the station. Cultivating mature positivity. CMPRadio.net.
CMPRadio.net, man. It's your boy Uncle P, and we are here live at the Cat Center. Right, this is a special place, right, near and dear to my heart. 2300 West 4th Street. You got to check it out, man. If you have an organization, if you're thinking about starting your organization, this is the place to come to in the city of Chester, right? If you're looking to do anything, you got to come through here, right? So, it's Uncle P. It's 2021 Candidate Forum, right? I have the my esteemed guest, right, Miss Portia West, Mr. Stefan Roots, and Miss Kearni Warren, right? And we're here to talk, right, about the election. November 2nd is the election day. Chester, I need you to come out. I need you to listen today, right? And come out. And if you have any questions, put them in here, and hopefully we'll get to those questions before we end. And if not, right, if they want to come through, they can come through CMP Radio at any time, right, and talk to people that way too. So let's get started. I want to start with you, Miss West, right?
Okay.
Right? You good?
Yes, I'm good.
All right.
I'm Portia West, and I currently serve on Chester City Council. I'm the endorsed Democratic candidate for Chester City Council. My position on the ballot is 162, and I want to thank CMP Radio for having me here this evening.
Absolutely.
I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I was raised in Chester, attended Chester Upland School District schools. I attended Keystone School of Business. I also attended Delaware County and Allegheny County community colleges. I've been a community activist, especially for the rights of those persons in public housing, and I've always advocated on behalf of the Chester community. I'm visible, I'm consistent, and I love working for the people in Chester. In order to be a good leader, you have to know how to serve, and that's my motto. So thank you. Again, Portia West for Chester City Council on the Democratic ticket. I'm 162 on the ballot.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Stefan Roots.
Hi, I'm Stefan Roots, native of Chester also. Also a Democratic candidate for City Council. My number is 161. That's the number you're going to pull when you're at the polls or filling that little box. Interestingly enough, I was born in January 61, so it's the perfect number. Born and raised in Chester, went to Chester schools starting out, ended up at Chester High School, graduated from Chester High School, went on to Villanova, got an engineering degree, went to work in the utility business, IBM in the IT world, moved out to Denver, got into the telephone world with MCI, back to IBM and back to this part of the country where I got right into journalism when I came back. So started the Chester Spotlight newspaper because after my little stint with the Daily Times, everybody said, we need some good news in this city. So if somebody would have told me in 2003 or 2006 when I started that I'd still be doing that today in the format of a blog, I'd tell them they were crazy, but maybe I'm the one that's crazy. Still pushing out the good news of Chester, still letting people know what's going on. A lot of people have connected to Chester through the Chester City blog. As a day job, I work for Delcora. I'm working as an operator for Delcora, making sure that the water is clean out there in those suburbs for the plants that I operate. And really looking forward to serving the city of Chester as a city council person. It's my first rodeo. You guys responded greatly during the primary to, I guess, convince everybody around town that, I'm the type of candidate that you'd like to see. So looking forward to seeing you come out and vote on November 2nd. Nothing would have happened tonight if it wasn't for CMP Radio, another communication outlet here in the city, so we partner quite often. So looking forward to improving communication throughout the city of Chester, through our blog, through our internet radio stations, and every other outlet we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Warren.
Hello, my name is Kearni Warren, and thank you all for being here this evening. I represent change and innovation. I am not a Democrat candidate. I do represent the Green Party, and I'm here to bring a new mindset to Chester. I've spoken to many of the residents, my neighbors, who have said that they are looking for a change, that they're not happy with what is happening in our city as it stands. So I'm representing a change. I have lived a life of service. I have been a substitute teacher here in Chester. I have mentored young girls here in Chester. I produced fashion show fundraisers from 2006 until 2011 to save the music department here. My life of service goes back to my teenage years under my mother, Reverend Bernice Warren, who was the pastor and director of Chester Eastside Ministries. I come from a long line of family who have taught me to give back to my community. And that is what I have been doing, and that is what I wish to do. And that is why I'm running for city council in Chester City. So my number is 165, and I hope to see you on November 2nd.
Awesome, awesome. So, Ms. West, the policing of our city has become a huge issue, with some saying there are only 2 to 3 officers on the street per shift. How do you plan to fix this problem?
Well, first of all, do we really have 2 to 3 police officers per shift?
Okay.
I'm thinking that it's more than that.
Okay.
But if that's what people think, they have their own opinion. But there were some elected officials from Philadelphia who came down to Chester to see how the crime rate has been going down in Chester. I believe the homicides are down by 63%, and fatalities are down by 43%. So it was huge to me that the officials from Philadelphia came down to Chester to find out how we were curbing the crime in Chester. Now, what I'd like to do is urge the community to take the civil service test and, come and be a part of the solution. We want you to come out, Chester people, to come out, take the civil service test, and just get in line and on board with protecting your own city. So I invite you to do so.
Absolutely. Mr. Roots, your campaign slogan is "Time for a Change." What are 3 changes you would like to see most in the city of Chester?
Let's start with that campaign slogan,
Right.
Time for a Change. Being a first-time candidate, we were milling around, what should our slogan be? We didn't have anything. So that Time for a Change came up during the petition period, when every time we were asking for a signature, people were like, it's time for a change, it's time for a change. Heard it so much, that just became our tagline. What 3 things you asked?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that we could talk about. If I were to settle on 3 things, I'd be underperforming.
Right.
I mean, we could talk about what she just talked about, policing, crime, getting guns off the street, violence. We could talk about potholes, broken sidewalks, and stormwater. We could talk about schools, we could talk about parks, we could talk about trash, we could talk about litter, we could talk about Covanta. We could go on and on and on. As city council person, it's really imperative upon me to not only focus on the department I'll be responsible for, but to also address a myriad of concerns that our city has to handle. So what I bring to this position is a new way of thinking, a way of thinking that is pretty much born and bred, from the corporate world, from good education, from good experience, and that's what I'm looking to do here in the city. So if I were to give you 3, it depends on what time of day you ask me what would be the top 3, because I'm not going to pigeonhole myself into any 3. There's dozens of situations, issues in the city that needs to be addressed, and with a cooperative city government, we can get it done.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ms. Warren, besides advocating for environmental health, unionizing lobbying support for home health care workers, what are 3 other issues that you feel plague Chester?
So the 3 issues that I feel plague Chester are lack of transparency, lack of opportunities, and the lack of services here.
Okay, all right. Ms. West,
Yes.
some residents are calling for new blood in city council. Do you feel that wisdom and experience outweigh the benefits of new ideas and fresh faces when it comes to what's best for the city?
Yes, I do,
Okay.
because where else would the new face, fresh new face go to, but to the person who has the wisdom and experience and, knowing how to, go through the system to get things done. A fresh new face cannot do that, without having to go to the person who's been there with the experience.
Awesome. Mr. Roots, can you tell us a little bit about the findings of the receiver thus far and how you plan on working with the receiver to improve our city's finances if elected?
Oh boy, the receiver came in here, and what he's done is a lot of talking, a lot of writing, a lot of digging, a lot of investigating. I would implore everybody just to go to chestercity.com, scroll down a little bit, you'll see an icon that says Receivers Report. He'll have his latest there. Click it, you'll see 100+ pages of his findings. I couldn't sit here in 1, 2, 3 minutes and go through the findings of the receiver. But, primarily he's here to help fix the finances of the city, help address some of the issues that got us in the situation we're in right now. And hopefully before he leaves, can put us on track to manage our own finances and build the city to where it needs to be. How would I work with the receiver? I mean, we're already working with him. I have his number, he has our number. He's been totally transparent. He's the type of guy that if you see an issue, if you have a question, just give him a call. We've shared some information with him, he shares some information with me, and I'm not saying I'm anyone special. He'd do that with any citizen. I mean, his meetings are totally open. If anyone has any qualms or questions for the receiver and what he's finding, give him a call, get on his email, join his meetings on Facebook. He's been one of the most transparent persons to come through this town, that is really genuinely trying to find out what's going on and help us. So help yourself, citizens of Chester. Get in touch with the receiver, either through the Facebook meetings that he has, through his phone number, through his email. He'll talk to you just like he'll talk to me.
Absolutely. Ms. Warren, why is environmental health so important to you?
Environmental health is important to everyone. Studies that show that crime and violence is directly related to environmental injustice and environmental racism. So for me, as a healthcare advocate and as someone who wishes to serve my community, it's important to me to make sure that our environmental health is in good standing.
Absolutely. So now I go into the general questions. I'm gonna ask each one of y'all a couple questions. Everybody gets the same question, all right? What's your stance on mandating the vaccine?
Well, I've already taken the initiative to mandate that persons on my staff in the Public Works Department are vaccinated. And then they do have an alternative. If they're not vaccinated, then they have the alternative of presenting to us, to personnel, a negative COVID test on a weekly basis. So it's about protecting and saving lives. And that's the lives of my staff members, their families, and the community that we serve. Because we're out here among all of you, serving you. So I'm quite sure you want us to do what we need to do to be cautious and handle you in the manner that you deserve.
Mr. Roots, the same question.
Yeah, I love how she said, the whole idea with vaccination is to protect each other, save each other from death. It's quite obvious that if you turn on the TV, they're saying that it's the people that aren't vaccinated are the ones that are getting sick and going to the hospital and dying. Even the breakthrough cases from people who who have had the vaccine are not suffering as badly as if they did not have the vaccine. As far as mandates, though, that was your question. Mandates are tricky. Mandates are tricky. I love how she's handling it as a government official, but you always have to be careful, because once you mandate one thing, it becomes that standard that creates mandates for other things you may not want down the road. As a non-government official, if I were to mandate something right now, I'd mandate that people do their homework, that people will stop being so selfish, that people will just look at the data, that people will see that this vaccine works. If 95% of the people that are getting sick and going to the hospital are unvaccinated people, the mandate is on common sense. It's not on anything governmental.
Well, I think that asking about the mandates is the wrong question to ask. I think more importantly, we should be focusing on the education of the vaccines. It's been proven that in communities where vaccination rates are higher, where the people have been educated, they have had low cases of COVID incidents. So I think it's important that we focus on educating our residents and the public about the benefits of having a vaccine.
Absolutely. How do we get new businesses to come to Chester?
Well, first of all, we've been getting new businesses to come to Chester. We have the Candlewood Suites, we have the Penhomes Healthcare Facility, we have DTLR, the sporting goods store over on Avenue of the States, and many more new businesses that have come into Chester. And of course, you have to know how to market to get people attracted to the area. We have a beautiful waterfront that is new businesses, and so we've been doing a good job through the Chester Economic Development Authority in terms of our marketing practices, and then we hold forums. We also conduct tours, you know, to get the interest stirred up in Chester. But you know, the primary thing about Chester is that we have accessibility. We have accessibility, and we're accessible to air, rail, highway, and waterway. So that's a huge attraction. So we're not having any problems attracting new businesses.
Okay.
I feel awkward because I want to say everything she said.
Right.
You know, we are a very attractive city to new businesses. Now, the real question is, how can we get more businesses
Right.
to come? How can we get more substantial businesses to come? How can we get more businesses in here that's going to bring more revenue, more employees? Everything she said, plus, we've got to get this crime rate down. We've got to get the schools better. We've got to get some housing. Nobody's going to move into the city unless all those things are in place. But to her point, what more attractive place than Chester to come and do your business? Industry loves a river. Businesses can't run without a highway. We've got 2 railroads that run through us. We are closer to the airport than most people in Philadelphia. This is an attractive place for businesses to come. If I were talking to just people who want to do business, I'd sit here and tout Chester all night long. Economic development, you know, through city government, we just have to beef that up even more. You know, tax incentives, whatever it takes is what it's going to take to bring more business to Chester.
Absolutely. Ms. Warren?
I think that we should focus on the competitive advantages of Chester, and I do agree with Stefan and Portia about the transportation outlets that we have. We are located between Philadelphia, New York, D.C., Maryland, Delaware. So people are coming in or passing through Chester every day. And we need to focus on spending dollars in our own neighborhoods. And though businesses are here, we need businesses where the residents can build wealth. So we need to focus on the untapped market here, the untapped demographics that are here. We need to focus on the human resources, which are the residents getting jobs. We need to also focus on the geographical location, which is golden. I mean, we're on the Amtrak line, and we're also on the SEPTA line. And we also need to focus on business clusters. So where businesses are located in a cluster form, we can focus on what those needs are, and we can help to bring businesses in that can help to contribute to the success of those businesses, where we can contribute to the success of neighboring communities where people were coming in to spend money in our own neighborhoods, and that also contributes to the well-being of other communities as well.
Absolutely. There are a growing number of entrepreneurs in Chester. We understand that. How can Chester City Council support them?
Well, first of all, we can support them by patronizing these entrepreneurs and then offering them technical support. We have, the Chester Economic Development Authority, whose mission is to be in touch with our businesses, making sure that they are that they have the resources that they need. And then Chester City Council is in the process of designating ARPA money, the American Rescue Plan money, to various initiatives. And one of them is going to be given towards the enhancement and betterment of our entrepreneurs. We want to make sure that they have what they need to survive in this community. And again, I'd like to urge the community, come out and support your own businesses. I know we run to Brookhaven and Eddystone and Delaware. We run everywhere to do our shopping, but we need to keep our money within Chester and support our entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Mr. Roots?
Entrepreneur, small business, the lifeblood of America. More than 90% of all businesses are small businesses. We have to remember that many of the businesses that are born out of Chester just come from that hustle mentality. It's just guys that are out here moving product, moving money, but they aren't necessarily set up in a standard structured business setup.
Right.
So when we talk about type of monies that come down from the government, I mean, if you don't have your paperwork in order, you're not going to get a dime.
Nothing.
If you don't have your balance sheet, your cash flow statement, and your all your financial statements, if you don't have a bank account, it's tough. So the question was how it relates to city government. City government and the business community, they go hand in hand. The city can't survive without businesses. Businesses can't survive without the city government. So we have to find a way to communicate, to bring each other together, to come to the table. We have to train them. In some cases, we have to spoon feed some of these entrepreneurs to get them to become real businesses so they can thrive, so they can generate revenue, so that they can feed their families, and so that they can produce products and services for the community.
Ms. Warren?
Well, city government has a powerful position to play with local entrepreneurs. Some of the ways that city government can help support entrepreneurship is, one, saving some of the old historic abandoned buildings and turning those into locations for small businesses. Continuing to partner with other businesses for technology support for companies. We can have a restorative program available where we help businesses restore old abandoned buildings. Also, with what Stefan said, I think it's important to understand that when you start a business, it goes in different stages and phases. And so being able to support entrepreneurs and businesses at each stage of their life cycle from beginning to scale is also extremely important. So having a visible relationship between city council and entrepreneurs here is very, very important. When you look at other communities, local government gives out, and sometimes they give out incentives for certain business practices that entrepreneurs are adhering to. So there's a lot of different ways that local government can support entrepreneurs.
When Chester residents ride into Brookhaven, they see Wawa, they see Chick-fil-A, they see bustling businesses opening, some closing, right? But name a new business or a business out there that you would like to see in the city of Chester.
Well, I've been advocating for and asking for a Wawa in Chester. I think that a Wawa down on 291 would really prosper because of the traffic and all of the activity that goes on down along the 291 corridor. I would like to even see maybe a corporate headquarters of a major Fortune 500 company have their headquarters in Chester. Right. I think it would provide a lot of job opportunities, and we would be able to have to increase our tax base, or not tax base, but our taxes. And economically, it would really be a benefit if we could attract a larger business. But Wawa is something that I've always wanted to see come here. Target, you know, we don't have enough room for their warehouse, but at headquarters or something like that would be very beneficial to the city of Chester. I'd like to see a company that will come here and boost our economic and social well-being.
Absolutely. Mr. Roots?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we could sit here all day and just talk about companies because we don't have any here.
Right.
We can just go down a laundry list. Wawa would be great, but Wawa wants to have this standard cookie cutter way that they want to show up in areas. So that's, I mean, it would be great to have another convenience store, but that doesn't really excite me. Corporate headquarters are cool. A port would be wonderful. I mean, it would hire a lot of people. We've got a waterfront. A supermarket would turn me on. I mean, we are still running back and forth out of our town when we can be buying our own vegetables and foodstuffs, you know, right here in our own town. We have a university, we have hospitals, we have a university. I just can't, that one just popped in my head, that we have kids, young adults, that are sent here by their parents paying $40,000, $50,000 a year in tuition, and they can't step off of campus and find something to buy, something to eat, something to wear, someplace to play. That's ridiculous. We have to create the college town concept that we are. That would bring multiple kids. I went to college, had a bunch of disposable income, even when it wasn't disposable.
Right.
You know, you just want to burn that money. So, I mean, I could talk all day about all kind of businesses that we want to bring in Chester. We want to bring in new homes. We want to bring in apartment buildings. We want to, I mean, a business is fixing a road. I mean, all kind of business can come through here. So from small to large, from industry to industry, we're ripe because nothing's here. We're barren. We'll take all takers. Anybody watching this, come on, we'll talk.
Absolutely. Ms. Warren?
I would like to see innovation here in Chester. I would like to see businesses come here that will make our city more livable, healthier, and clean. And so my focus is on green infrastructure, which will create green union jobs. And we can have these jobs in sectors that are already in existence, like education, construction, landscaping, clean technologies, design. So I want to see Chester modernized, to go on along with Stefan, what Stefan said about college students being here. They're full of ideas, and we need to innovate and modernize Chester so that we can attract new businesses here. And moving into green infrastructure is the modernized way to do it.
What would you say to Chester residents that say city government officials care more about money than the welfare of its citizens?
If you saw my bank account, you wouldn't ask me that. So what I'd like to say, first of all, is that I had worked with the previous administration for 2 years. And when they left me a gift. They decreased my salary by $5,000. And I've been on Chester City Council for 12 years. I've never had a raise. So it's not about the money for any of us, because none of us are making a huge salary. But I am committed. Money does not drive or dictate what I do for the citizens here in Chester. So what I say to that statement, it's, to me, in my opinion, a very unfair statement, because I have gone into my pocket personally. I've done food boxes for Thanksgiving and Christmas time. There were 3 children who lost both their parents in a tragic car accident. My staff and I got together and we had Christmas for those 3 children, even for their caregiver. So we go into our pockets a lot of the time. People don't know that, because I'm not going to go around bragging or talking about what I do, because it's personally gratifying to me to be able to help someone. There was a lady who was in a fire. She lost her home due to a fire, and she and her 3 children, with 1 baby on the way, ended up in the Wesley House. And so myself and another lady, we went there and we provided Christmas for them in the Wesley House. So, you know, there are a lot of times that we go into our own personal whatever we have, you know, to do for the citizens in Chester who are in need.
Mr. Roots?
Yeah. Council Lady West said that was an unfair question. And I can see why she said that, because she interpreted that question a little different than I did,
Right.
but she's in city government, so she would. I think the question was, read the question again, so I can make sure I have it oriented right.
What would you say to Chester residents that say city government officials care more about money than the welfare of its citizens?
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought it said. Well, first of all, anybody who knows anything about public service, government jobs, it doesn't pay well. You know, people don't get into it for the money, for the salary.
Right.
All right. Now, the way I interpreted that question is, I don't think city government thinks about money enough. And when I'm thinking about money coming into the city. I'm thinking about economic development.
Right.
I think as more money comes into the city, it takes care of the people who live in the city. If people out there who maybe asked that question think it's profits over people, I don't see that as the case here in the city. I see that the city's in the situation it's in is because we haven't thought about money enough. We've got to bring in the new businesses, like we asked with the last question. We need to bring in, market rate homes. We need to bring in more people. I've been knocking on a lot of doors. There's a lot of people from Philly moving down here, people. If you don't know it, I'm telling you, they're moving down here with their families because they see Chester as a much more attractive alternative to Philadelphia.
Right.
So businesses, people. I mean, we used to be a city of close to 70,000. What do we have? 35,000 now, maybe half that. This city has an infrastructure that can support a whole lot more than what's sitting on it right now. So let's fill in the gaps. Let's bring in that money. Let's focus on the money. Money. Show me the money.
Right.
And we can help the people.
Awesome.
All right.
Ms. Warren?
I think it's important to hear what residents are saying, because that's how they feel. And so I don't want to make their thoughts, I don't want to ignore what they're saying. So there's a reason that the residents are feeling that way. And maybe it's because the residents don't see enough businesses where they are being, where they're benefiting from the money that's coming into the city. We know that there's a lot of money in poverty, and there's a lot of testing and assessing that goes on in places that are under-resourced. And Chester is under-resourced. And so when you're under-resourced, you have a lot of grants, and you have big businesses that want to take advantage of getting things for a low value. And that doesn't always turn around and is reflected in benefiting the residents. So I think we have to be careful and listen to what the residents are saying. As I have knocked on doors since June, I've heard the same. I've heard the same sentiments. I've heard that residents want to change. I've heard that they want to be heard. And I heard that they want better in their communities. And so, like Stefan said, we need to focus on bringing in businesses that will benefit our residents, not just coming in making money off of the residents.
Awesome. So we asked people to give questions. I think we have a few questions. Nobody really wanted to give their name. Now, if it's okay, if I read a couple of these questions, I'm not reading any questions that's derogative, right, or that's harmful, right? Is that good?
Yes.
Miss West, why do you deserve my vote?
I deserve your vote because I'm consistent, I'm passionate, compassionate, I'm knowledgeable about the inner workings of city government. I have 12 years on council, Chester City Council, so I have the experience. I've worked hard to bring in new business development, and we do have some new business development coming in on the west side of town, a recreation center, as well as housing. And then we have a major project coming to the downtown area and in Deshawn Park, which will be retail and residential. So I've been working hard with my team to bring in revenues to the city by way of new business development. I'm visible, always out there. You might see me in a dress sometimes, but pretty much I'm in my jeans and sneakers, and I'm out on the road looking at what needs to be done. I have a wonderful staff that I've developed, and I know how to make my department function even with a small staff. Last year, during the pandemic, I had 4 people working the whole city. Just 4 people, 2 managers and a laborer and a driver. And they did the work throughout the whole city. And it was because of staffing, lack of staff. And I know what it takes to take care of my people. I've done road programs, bridges, sidewalks. I make sure that I communicate with the public, and I have an open door policy. So my line of communication with the residents in Chester has always been open. So I'm a hard worker. I'm someone that you need on Chester City Council. I work around the clock. So you need me to be there for you in a consistent manner.
Thank you. Mr. Roots?
Yeah, that was a great answer
It was.
because she's right in a lot of ways.
Right.
You need some mature, experienced politicians running government.
Right.
You need people who know how to run government running government. But the city is also saying it's time for a change. We don't need more politicians. We need visionaries.
Right.
We need a shot in the arm. We need a new face. We need a new way of thinking to join the mature, experienced government that's in place. The city has to move in a little different direction. Everybody recognizes that. So the reason you should vote for me is because I'm that dude. I'm that guy. I come with experience in the business world, education, good relationships out here, no criminal record. I'm just that full package that you need.
Right.
The primaries told it all, right? 1,400 votes. Well more, 43% of the votes against the established politicians.
Right.
So it's already been determined out here who should be in city government. So all you got to do is finish the job. I'm talking to you out here looking at this broadcast right now. Just finish the job. Come out on November 2nd. Don't believe all that stuff you're hearing that he's already in, because I'm not. That's why we're sitting here. We've got an election to do on November 2nd. Come out and vote for me so I can join the established government people here in Chester and give them a shot in the arm.
Absolutely. Ms. Warren?
The residents should vote for me because I'm relatable. I have been out here knocking doors since June. I have been listening to what the residents have been saying. I have been connecting on an emotional level with you all, and you know this. And I represent innovation. I'm the underdog in this race because I'm not a part of the establishment. I'm a part of the Green Party, which represents revolution, which is change. Movement is temporary. It moves and it stops. Revolution is change. And that's what I want to bring, a change in mindset. We've had the same leadership for 12 years. And I'm not quite sure how much has changed in 12 years, but I'm here to change it. And so giving me a chance to sit as your councilwoman, you've already heard what I expect to happen. You've heard my my hopes for this city. I have lived a life of service, like I've said before. I too have professional accolades, but I rather focus on my life of service and the work that I've done as a union member and as a union lobbyist and a union organizer. I have sat with our elected officials on the federal, state, and local level. I'm used to sitting with elected officials from both parties, and I'm able to speak with them on behalf of the home care workers, which I will do on behalf of the residents. So if you want cleaner streets, I will fight for you to have cleaner streets. If you want your trash picked up, I will fight for you to get your trash picked up. If you want better businesses here in Chester, I will fight for you to get better businesses in Chester. Whatever it is that you want, Chester, the residents, you come to me and you tell me, and I will fight for you to have that.
So, in the city of Chester, we have a water authority, Chester Water Authority. There's been a purchase agreement, right? Things signed. I want to ask you, each one of you, how you feel, right, and whether or not you would be okay with selling the water authority to Aqua for bills to go up to $500 every 3 months.
What amazes me, first of all, is that Aqua has purchased Del Cora, and no one has said a word about that. It's okay.
Right.
I don't know what happened to make the community okay with that, but they have now merged with Del Cora. Aqua has. No final agreement has been made yet.
Okay.
We're still looking at it and under the instruction of the courts.
Awesome.
Well,
Mr. Roots?
we got to make a correction right off the bat.
Right.
As a Del Cora employee, Aqua has not purchased Del Cora.
Okay.
I am a Del Cora employee, but Del Cora did ask Aqua to buy them, so they're still in negotiations
Okay.
and in court, as is Chester Water Authority. There's a whole bunch of court cases out there. To your point, water bills will go up to $500. That's the worst outcome that could ever happen if the Chester Water Authority is sold. We don't know that to be the case, but chances are when it goes to a private company, the rates do go up.
Right.
They're two different cultures, Chester Water Authority and Aqua. You've got a private company that's all about making money and paying dividends to stockholders versus a homegrown, homeborn organization that's all about providing a quality service, good water at a good price, and it's a great business. There's nothing wrong with Chester Water Authority. It should upset anybody that this deal is even being considered. But then we have to consider the reality. Money. Money. It's the only asset the city has that could generate money. The city needs money. It's not going to be pretty anyway this thing shakes out. My concern, though, my personal concern, is the fact that rates will likely go up. You know, Aqua says they'll make a buffer, but you've read the paper today, even Del Cora rates went up, and it's not under Aqua control. Prices are going up. Some things around here are artificially low, like our trash rates. We just have to be prepared for that. We have to look at customer assistance programs. I mean, if people can't afford their water bill now, they sure enough won't be able to afford it when Aqua takes over. These are all things that's going to be really painful for the people here in Chester. It's going to be painful for city government for having to go through this whole process. It's going to be painful for Chester Water Authority employees and their staff, but things are going to change. It may not change for the better, but that's business in America, and darn it, you know, we shouldn't be this broke to have to be in this situation, but here we are.
Absolutely. Ms. Warren.
Well, I first would like to say that because there is a lack of transparency and communication in the city, I'm not quite sure that the residents know that there's some type of relationship between Aqua and Delcora. First, our water company has been in existence in over 150 years, and it has not been in distress. And to sell off a natural resource to supposedly help fix the financial issues in the city, it just doesn't make sense. I had the opportunity on Wednesday to go up to Harrisburg with Chester Water Authority workers and ratepayers because the Octorero Reservoir in our water authority services Lancaster County, Chester County, and Delaware counties. So we are not the only ones affected by it. We're only 19% of the ratepayers. So the workers are in jeopardy of losing their jobs. The ratepayers are in jeopardy of their rates tripling. And we're in jeopardy of losing the quality of the water that we drink. Also, we're in jeopardy of losing Octorero Reservoir. It is about a 462 acre beautiful space that we might lose. It offers recreational opportunities. And so there are other ways that we can think about how we can help Chester fix its financial issues, and selling off Chester Water Authority, even though it's not in distress, is just not a good idea to me.
Thank you. Last question from the group. What will I see differently if I vote for you?
Well, what you will see in my next 4 years when I win is that we will have more roads that will be, repaired, completion of some infrastructural type things, completion of some of the bridges that have been shut down, and they've been shut down for a while for various reasons. You will see a thriving community because we, like I said before, we plan to bring in new business development, and there is a plan to do the Overtown area in terms of developing, bringing in new businesses and then developing the existing businesses. You will see opportunities at the riverfront come to completion in terms of businesses and what have you, and the development of our waterfront. We have some plans in place now. What I would like to see is a major move towards mentoring and bringing in young people, because we can't stay here forever. None of us can stay here forever. So I'd like to have a situation where we bring in young people and teach them about government, so that if they're interested, they'll be able to step into the positions at the city level government. And I just want to, you will see a more thriving community.
Mr. Roots?
Following her all night just makes it easy.
Right.
Because she just laid out a bunch of things that are already in the pipeline in city government that obviously most of us don't know about. So what you're going to see is me getting on board in city government, working with people like her to make those things happen. I can't make it any better than that. But she really did steal my thunder in the end. I'm looking forward to creating this youth movement. We've got to identify young people who are going to take the place of guys like me, ladies like her and many others in city government who are just aging out of government work. We've got to get people involved. That's why you, people watching right now, have to come out and vote. We have to be serious about this whole government process because voting matters. I'm looking forward to working with youth, our youth programs. I'm looking forward to beautifying, that's not even a word, the beautification of this city. Some of this stuff is easy pickings. You know, we have to really tighten up our trash collection. We have to get the mindset of our residents to stop littering. We have to continue to work with the environmental groups and put some pressure on the Solid Waste Authority out in the county, who bring all the county's trash to Covanta here in our city. There's no reason why, you know, they say you could be poor, but you don't have to be dirty. This is our home. I mean, we have to clean up our home. If we want to put some respect on the name of Chester, we've got to look better. Nobody wants to come into a dirty place. We live here. It'll make us healthier, make us look better, and all the things that we've talked about today, attracting new business, new people to the city. We've got to look better. So that's really my focus going in.
Ms. Warren.
And can you repeat the question, please?
Oh man, you done had me leave. I done left that. What will you do for us if elected? Right? What will we see differently?
If I am elected, again, I stand for innovation and modernization. And so I want Chester to be a booming and thriving community like our neighboring communities. There's so much wealth here. There's so much raw talent here in Chester. I want to cultivate the talents of the untapped demographics here. You know, this is a city, though many may not think so, but it's a city of the haves and the have-nots. And there are a lot of people who are untouched, even though there are programming here. There's a lot of outreach, but there's also a demographic that has not been touched and that has not been reached. And we need to bring innovation to that demographic. We need to bring in job training for futuristic jobs, for jobs that can lead into careers, not just a job, but careers in sustainability that will sustain their future and help keep Chester clean, and beautiful and safe. I am fighting for environmental justice. If you see my Facebook, you know that I've been doing this prior to me running. So I am all about innovation, changing the mindset, and empowering the community. You know, I'm running on people, power, purpose because I believe that we the people have the power to live a life on purpose. And so when we empower people, they empower other people. And when you empower people, they have a different outlook on life. There's a lot of things that we have to fix here, but at the same time, we have to reach people who they don't have guidance or they don't have people who are there to help them. And so I will not turn a back on those demographics. I am relatable to them, and I am here to be an open ear and a source of empowerment.
Thank you. So this is our last question, and then I'm going to give you the floor. Each candidate, you'll get 2 minutes to try to get the people out to vote, right? But this last question has to deal with Covanta. Right, we understand that Covanta is in the area, right, and we're debating on whether to try to shut it down. So my question is, how do we fix the Covanta issue?
Well, I can't answer a question with a question. Covanta, first of all, I want everyone to know, was not brought here by this administration.
Okay.
A prior administration took the initiative to bring the incinerator here some years ago. It was run by Westinghouse and then American Refuge, and now we have Covanta. So I'm looking at the fact that we do not have a say, city government does not have a say in whether it stays or not. That's left up to the people in the county, and also whether or not they get their permitting from the DEP and the EPA. what I've chosen to do as an elected official, and because Public Works comes under my purview, is to make sure that I communicate, and I meet with the EPA and the DEP on a quarterly basis through the Chester Environmental Partnership. I make sure that they are meeting the requirements in terms of their permitting, okay? And then I have 3 host inspectors who have been trained, and they go out annually to look at the facility to make sure that the requirements are being met as per what they're looking for in their reporting. I'm trying to work within the situation, okay? Trying to make sure that they are good business partners and are partners to the community partners. I want to make sure that they're in compliance, okay? That's my goal, to make sure that they're in compliance. Did any of us ask for an incinerator to be here? No, we didn't. But Covanta, in my opinion, has been a good partner in the sense that whenever there's a concern, they take care of it right away. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but they do. I'm always checking to see if they're in compliance. And as far as the DEP is concerned, they are in compliance. I've taken a tour, and I would invite anyone to take a tour of any of the facilities down at the waterfront. I've gone down to the facility, and in going through, they separate the trash, and yes, it's a lot of trash. I think that it's about 3,500 rather, tons per week, okay? And, or is that per day? It's per day or per
day.
week? Per day then, okay. And they burn it, they scrub it, and then it's turned into renewable energy. I know a lot of people have a problem with that, and they look at the emissions from the stack. But then I feel that a lot of the smell that people smell, and I've been down there at night, you know, to the facility, is coming from Delcor, the human waste that they burn, okay? Or not burn, but they take in, okay? So I think Covanta gets blamed for a lot of the smell that people are smelling. And I'm not saying that it's an ideal situation for us. As a matter of fact, myself and all of my team years ago, we were supporters and we were activists, and we worked with Zuline Mayfield. We were part of her group. I went to her meetings. The mayor stood in front of the trucks, you know, coming in. You know, we all tried to convince the county that they shouldn't bring the incinerator here. But right now, we have Covanta. I don't know whether it's going to stay or not. The decision has not been made. But for as long as they're here, my goal as an elected official is to make sure that they stay in compliance.
Mr. Roots?
Well, what is Covanta? A lot of people don't even know what it is. I will say that my campaign for city council really raised the awareness of what Covanta is, but still we haven't penetrated every household here in the city. A lot of people don't know what it is. So real quick, what is it? Covanta's that thing down there on the waterfront that burns trash. The trash comes from New York, Philadelphia, and Delaware County. So the question is, what can we do about it? The only thing that we can do is wish that it goes away, but none of us have a magic wand. How is it going to go away? The only way anything goes away when it comes to business is they're not making any money anymore. So what we can do as residents here in Delaware County is put pressure on the Delaware County Council and the Solid Waste Authority, who makes all the decisions of where Delaware County's trash goes. For 30 years, they've not even thought had a second thought, it's coming to Chester, it's coming to Bern. So if we can stop that right now, and that's the effort of, my group, the environmental group, the Green Party, all those type people, can they still operate with 1/3 of their load? That's a question. But chances are they're not going to go away anytime soon anyway. So what else can we do? We can ask for more money. For every ton of trash that they burn, they give Chester money. But they pay, and the they is the Solid Waste Authority sends trash out to a landfill, and they pay those guys more per ton for trash that go to a landfill than they pay for trash that comes to Chester.
Wow.
That's just not fair. They get 2.5 times more money for trash that goes to a landfill out in Berks County than trash that comes to Chester for burning. So if nothing else, in a city that's starved for money, we've got the upper hand. We own that host agreement. We need to sit down with we need to sit down with the Solid Waste Authority and say, this trash that you're sending to Covanta, you got to be charging more. We got to get more in our city. In the meantime, some other things have to be figured out. What is coming out of that big middle finger that's sticking up in the air called their stack? It's 300 feet high. It spews like a chimney. Everything that's burned comes out of there. I and my crew are doing a lot of work, examining what exactly is coming out of the stack. It's been alleged that it's the cause of asthma and heart disease and infant mortality. But is it really? There's no hard facts anywhere. So we've got to get those facts together and get to people to understand what's going on. And maybe if they understand that that really is the cause of a lot of the illnesses that's going on in this town, it will make a difference. I contend with no reservation that if Covanta was gone, our waterfront would be a whole lot more economically viable. I mean, people would come down to our waterfront right away. But let's not forget, and I'm surprised you didn't mention this, these guys do bring us $5 to $8 million a year. And that would be a huge hole in our budget if they were to go away right away. So the work that has to be done in city government is to determine what are we going to do to replace that revenue as soon as Covanta goes away. We just can't say, keep Covanta because it's bringing us $5 million. We have to say, here's what we're doing to replace that $5 million and do whatever we can to get Covanta out of here. That's what has to happen. And that's what I'm going to do.
Awesome. Ms. Warren?
So I would encourage you, the residents, to research Covanta, the largest trash incinerator in the country that's located here in Chester. There has been a multitude of research, scholarly articles, newspaper articles, television documentaries. And so to say that the city doesn't have a say, well, that's taking away the responsibility, because as local government, you're able to fight for something or you don't fight for something. And so you can fight to have Covanta leave. Now, as far as the money is concerned, Chester is still having financial issues, even with the amount of money that's coming in from Covanta. So if we work on our infrastructure of bringing new businesses into this city, we can work on the money that Covanta is bringing in that will leave once Covanta is gone. Covanta hires approximately 6 people from Chester, and the rest of those employees don't live here. The air pollution that comes from, we know that air pollution comes from a lot of different places, but to have community partners or business partners that are contributing to air pollution does not make a good community partner. The American Lung Association did a report in 2019 on the different types of health hazards that air pollution causes. It causes cancer. We have high cancer rates here in Chester. Google it, research it on your own. We have the highest children's hospitalization for asthma. Google it, research it on your own. We have the highest low birth rates, 2 to 3 times the state's average here in Chester. Google it, research it on your own. I encourage the city of Chester to research what is happening to us. Covanta is located in black and brown communities, and black and brown communities suffer with environmental racism because those facilities that cause environmental hazards are located in those cities. I have attended several environmental justice and climate justice events in this area and in other places. I was just at one last night. And Chester, in Philadelphia, Chester was brought up because it is known throughout the country as one of the worst cases of environmental justice and environmental racism, sorry. So please, Google Covanta. Google what it is doing to our city. It's not a secret that banks and other businesses turn a blind eye when they know that there are environmental hazards located in certain cities. And our neighboring cities and communities also have to worry about it because air pollution travels. Like Portia said, we burn about 3,500 tons of trash every day from Puerto Rico, Oklahoma, Ocean City, Maryland, New York, 21 counties in Pennsylvania. It's coming to Chester. So we need to make sure that we have better business partners in this city that are not adding to the issues that we are already suffering from.
Thank you. So last question, and then I will I'll let you guys talk about your campaign. I need you to use one word to describe your campaign.
Consistent.
Right. Say it again.
Consistent.
Consistent.
Exciting.
Exciting.
Revolutionary.
Revolutionary. You have your 2 minutes.
Okay. Again, I'm Portia West, and I currently serve on Chester City Council. I've been there for 12 years serving this community. I serve it with love and compassion. I feel that you should retain me on Chester City Council because of the service that I've given in prior years. I'm dependable. I know the desires of the community. I'm open to new and creative and innovative ideas. I'm thinking that we need to really expound upon our technology so that our businesses that are currently here in the city will be able to tap into new ways of doing things in terms of technology. I feel that our school system, we all need to get together and support our new superintendent and the new receiver. Let's stand behind them as they pursue new ideas in terms of better educating our children. I hope that you will remember me on November 2nd. Remember the things that I have done, I am doing, and what I hope to do in the future. Infrastructure is on the move. We're doing things here in terms of our infrastructure. We are creating businesses. We're looking forward to the opportunities that we have on the West End as well as over town and in Deshaun Park in terms of new business development. I will be supportive of those efforts. Anything that will have a meaningful and impactful, a positive impact on the community. So again, I'm Portia West, and I'm running on the Democratic ticket. I am the endorsed candidate for Chester City Council, and I'm asking for your vote on November 2nd, and my position is 162 on the ballot.
Thank you.
Stefan Roots. Let's just finish the job. We kicked butt in the primary. We're just going to get through these next 4, 5, 6 days. Come on out and vote if you sent in your mail-in ballots. The doors I've knocked on, you've already said I voted for you, but you can still put a sign in my front yard. This has been an exciting time from the primary to now. We came out here not knowing what to expect, put a ragtag team together, figured it out on the fly with not a lot of experience, not a lot of money, but the money that we did have, we spent every penny of it out here in this community. We created a brand, Secure Your Roots. That was crazy. We came out with Roots There It Is. That was crazy. We came out and campaigned like this city hadn't seen a campaign in a really long time. We're changing Chester. We're changing Chester's politics. We're changing Chester's image. Again, my focus has always been put some respect on our name. I want to be that guy that's going to start putting respect on Chester's name. We've just been old and tried and true for just too long. We don't need another politician. We need a visionary. But we have to respect the politicians that are in place. These guys know how this job is done. We've got a receiver in here who's tweaking how things are done. Things are changing in this city. We need an agent of change. I want to be in there, working in there, helping to draft the new change. I'm calling it Chester 2.0 because that's what we're coming up on. So get on board, you guys. Let's finish the job. Vote for me. Chester City Council, Stefan Roots, 161. Remember, I was born January 1961. Do the math. I'm not going to be here forever, so we're going to hit the ground running. See you guys on Tuesday.
Thank you. Ms. Warren?
So Chester, you know, I have been knocking doors, speaking to you since June, and you have spoken, you have told me that you want to change. You want change for your children. You want change for yourselves. I represent innovation. I am relatable to you. I come to reclaim and reframe our narrative here in Chester. For so long, we have allowed outsiders and insiders to dictate who we are, and it's not who we are. We have allowed our city to be forgotten about. You know, my parents grew up here, my grandparents grew up here, and this is not the Chester that they once knew. And I am here to make this city better than what it was. Let's reclaim it and let's reframe it to a city that is better than what we once knew. We can bring innovation here. We can bring new businesses here. I want to work with the forgotten residents of this community. I've spoken to you. There's so much potential here. I am standing on the shoulders of my mother, Reverend Bernice Warren, who you know was for the people. She fed, she clothed, she ran programs for so many people here and partnered with some of you as well here. And so I'm standing on her shoulders. I'm standing on the shoulders of my two aunts who were school teachers here. I'm standing on the shoulders of my grandfather who worked at Scott Papers and owned Chuck's Market, my father and my grandmother on 9th and Pennell. Some of you may remember that store. So I come from a long line of service-oriented people, entrepreneurs in this city, and a long line of hard work and dedication. And I am not here to speak fluff to you. I am for the people. I've rolled up my sleeves and have gotten out here knocking on doors and listening to you. Some of you have even emailed me, messaged me about some of the issues that you're experiencing in this city, and I have listened to you. I have spent hours in certain neighborhoods listening to the community. So when I come into this when I come into City Hall, I will have an open door policy. I am here to resolve the lack of transparency that's going on here, where residents don't know what's happening in this city, where homeowners, if you're looking for a home, you don't know which houses are for sale or not. I am here to resolve the lack of services here in Chester, and I am here to resolve the lack of opportunities and push that to successful communities, healthy communities. And my number is 165, November 2nd. You have the opportunity to vote for me, and when you're voting for me, you're voting for the people, and you're voting for innovation, and you're voting for revolution. which is not a scary thing. It just means change in the right direction.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, right? It was a good night. I want to thank you for your conversation, right? I hope you were able to reach the people that you're trying to reach, right? On November 2nd, I wish everybody good luck, right? And then we'll talk on November 3rd, man. I want to give a shout out to the Cat Center, right?
Yes.
2300 West 4th Street, man. This is an awesome place, man. Get up here. Make sure you get with Miss Tara. Also, Solo Subs, Sister Sandwiches, and more mac and cheese, please, man. It's your boy, Uncle P, man. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Again, man, catch us tomorrow morning on the morning meeting. OGGO. What's up, bro? We out of here.
Cultivating mature positivity.
ZMPRadio.net.